Welcome, welcome everyone. So glad to see everyone joining. We're going to continue to admit people as they sign on, but I wanted to quickly introduce myself. I'm Lucy Bloom, Executive Director at Veronica's Voice here in Kansas City. Earlier this year, we entered into a partnership through a global grant awarded by Rotary International with the support of our Northeast Kansas District 5710, with Leewood Rotary Club and Lenexa Rotary Club. And then we have an international partner, Oriental Integrity Rotary Club in Taipei. Rotary International is working to combat human trafficking on a global scale, but that work begins in local communities. And that is why Lenexa and Leewood Rotary Clubs are working together to rally a swarm in our community to join in the fight. Our first in a series of webinars was hosted in July, featuring results from a community-wide assessment. The recording of that webinar can be accessed at veronicasvoice.org/Rotary-Swarm. We're going to put that link in the chat, so don't worry about catching that right now. Look for it in the chat. You can also register for our upcoming webinars at that same site. As I'm sure you all already have been there and that you've RSVP'd for this event. Our mission is twofold. First, we want to learn and to act together. As we learn, we will turn awareness to action and find ways to come alongside our entire community to end and prevent trafficking. We thank you for accepting our invitation for today. And our hope is that by joining our growing team of Rotarians, community leaders, victim service providers, concerned citizens, and more, you'll have opportunities to expand your knowledge, grow your network, and increase your impact. Today's webinar is being facilitated by our national partner supporting the Rotary Swarm, Ashley Chapman. She's the founder and CEO of Engage Together. She's a human rights attorney, a social entrepreneur with 20+ years of experience building solutions in education, business, legal, nonprofit, government, and community sectors on behalf of the world's most vulnerable populations. We're also going to hear from a set of panelists of local community heroes. First will be Lee Jost. He's a founder of Cultivate, and they have a new name, which he's going to tell us. But he really specializes in connecting people to community supports to end the cycle of incarceration and to stabilize families and futures. We also have Detective Shannon Leeper. She is the senior level police detective with a demonstrative history of working in government and administration. She has expertise in special victim investigations, case management, crisis intervention, and public speaking. She provides a lot of training, and she is doing a lot to create protective services in our community. And then Ann Pitnick, she's programs coordinator for juvenile intake and assessment in Johnson County. She has a long history of thinking outside the box, and while doing her very best to support the limitations of our current systems, to continually be improving those systems so that our youth and families that are experiencing vulnerabilities in our community can overcome those with the support of the community and of the systems in our community. And then finally, we'll end our panelists with Kelly Young. She's the Director of Evidence-Based Initiatives at KDC Kansas. You all will be familiar with KDC as the primary foster care provider here in our part of the state. Kelly has, again, these are all people who have challenged the status quo. They have stepped into those spaces where we're identifying gaps in our systems and identifying some of our weaknesses, and they found a way to find strength and to find opportunity and to create more opportunity. And Kelly Young definitely embodies that, along with the other speakers here today. So with that being said, I want to turn this over now to Ashley Chapman.
Thank you so much, Lucy. And thank you for everyone who is participating and hosting these community conversations. We're thrilled to be with Johnson County community today, or if you're listening after the fact, the recording, welcome to the party. So today our goal is pretty straightforward, but of course the topics are complex. So our goal is to discover together what are the driving vulnerabilities in Johnson County and surrounding areas that as a community you could rally around. And as we're learning from our speakers today, our local experts on the ground, giving it all they have every day to support various different vulnerable populations in your city and in communities, I want you to listen kind of with an ear towards how can I help? So we never want to illuminate things that are going on in our cities without also ushering you in to becoming part of the solution. And that can be in the way that we frame it, one of three ways. So you could be listening on how could you perhaps enhance what you're already doing to support vulnerable populations in your community? How could you come alongside those who are already doing it very well? Or how could you fill a gap? And there are always gaps in communities. And it's those gaps in individuals' lives that create those vulnerabilities that can potentially lead to exploitation, oppression, even human trafficking. And that's not something we want in any of our cities. So you are in every way, every listener on this call, everyone listening now and in the future, uniquely positioned to make a difference. So just put that hat on today as we're listening to our celebrated guests. So we've asked each of our guest speakers today to share really 4 crucial bits of information. And that is to tell us who they are and what they do in the community. Tell us about the programs that they're operating, their perspective about what are the vulnerabilities that are present in your cities and in your towns, and then how, from their unique perspective, you can help solve for that. So without further ado, we're going to welcome our first speaker, Lee Jost. And Lee, it's lovely to meet you. Can't wait to hear from you. And go ahead and take the floor away. Oh, I don't think we can hear you though.
How much has that become a common thing today?
I know. Go ahead.
I put all my contact info in the chat as I have a chance to share. I work for an organization called InCircle. I started the organization in 2011 as just a community volunteer working with family members and kids who were impacted by incarceration. And then in 2017, we formally launched as InCircle, a nonprofit dedicated to connecting people to community opportunities to end the cycle of incarceration and stabilize families and futures. We have 3 key programs that we do for those, and we specialize and really focus on folks that are impacted by the criminal justice system. So our longest running program is called Strengthening Families. It's a 14-week program for at-risk families with teens in the criminal justice system. So these are parents or adult caregivers who have a child who is in the criminal justice system as a teenager. And these programs help families with family skills to manage their family expectations. We also have a program called the College of Trades. And that program started in 2011. And we work with clients that are housed at Johnson County Corrections Adult Residential Center in Gardner, Kansas. This helps these clients gain access to a skilled trade, as well as the necessary soft skills to help those clients stay employed long-term. Many of the clients we work with have been out of the workforce for a long time because of long-term imprisonment, or they have just had really poor work histories because of maybe substance abuse. So we work with those clients to help them find a good trade that would fit their life goals and also the soft skills to keep them employed. And finally, we have a teen program that we started a few years ago, and it's called Discovery. And that teen program helps youth who are currently in the criminal justice system identify a career pathway in a skilled trade. And then we help them access and secure funds to get their first certification in that skilled trade. So we have students right now that are in auto tech, welding, and we love to see those young people find a way to actually have a goal in life towards a job that will give them gainful long-term employment. For this meeting, I'll focus most of what I talk about on College of Trades. And one of the things that we were asked is to talk about like what gaps there are in the community and what our agency does. Well, we know that in the research that we've seen, that if we can get somebody education and employment support while they're incarcerated, we'll see a 40% reduction in reincarceration or recidivism. And through our training, we've seen this play out. 180 days out from completing our program, only 2% of our clients have received a new charge, or only 8% have been revoked and go back into the criminal justice system. By comparison, in the community, it runs about 20 to 25% for those who are receiving new charges or are revoked on their probation. We have every time we start a class, we survey our clients and those students, and we ask them, what are the things that prevent you from leaving the residential center, leaving corrections, and feeling like you have what you need for gainful employment? 68% of our clients say they don't have enough education. 62% believe that their legal problems will prevent them from finding a job. And 46% say they don't even have proper work clothes. I've started reading a book by Jeff Korzenik, who is with Fifth Thirds Bank, and this book is called Untapped Talent. And what he does is he explores the challenges in the United States around employing those who are coming out of the criminal justice system and the barriers. According to him, the National Council of State Governments have identified 45,000 different barriers, from legislation to zoning to hiring practices across the nation, that are barriers for clients to successfully re-enter society with housing, transportation, and good jobs. So what we do in our program is we partner with two key agencies, Johnson County Corrections and all the clients that are housed at the residential center, and then Johnson County Community College, who set up for us a grant or a fund called the Better Tomorrow Fund to help actually pay for skilled trades for the clients that we work with. So what we want to do is we want to give our clients access to a trade training. We want to give them access to life skills, mentoring, and then post-release supports to pursue some educational and employment goals. And when we do this, our goal is to really get our client who's coming in with a criminal background on equal footing when they interview for a job with somebody who's coming in with no criminal background, but in all likelihood, no trade training, no life skills training, and no community supports. They're just an average person coming in to try and take a job. Our goal here is to put them on equal footing. We're not asking employers to guarantee a job. We're asking employers for our clients to have a fair chance. The gaps we fill in the community then are those gaps of getting our clients connected to the necessary resources. One of the biggest barriers our clients have is many of our clients are coming in after 6, 10, 8 years of incarceration. Can you imagine 8 years changing in just what changed in cell phones in 8 years? So we do digital literacy for the workplace. We help them with the necessary skills to do a job search online, to build a resume, to make sure that they can navigate basic workplace computing needs. We help our families with the skills that they need to manage their family expectations and to help set good, clear boundaries for their kids. And we help teens think about goals that they have for education, especially teens. Most of our teens are in alternative schools or are already dropped out of high school. And these teens are rudderless at that point in their life. Nobody is helping to guide and steer some of their choices around career. So we love getting those teens together and taking them on a tour at Johnson County Community College and showing them the auto tech department, where they can actually look and see some of the things that they can do in a classroom that's not a traditional classroom. And they're all of a sudden lit up about going to school. So the individuals and families that we serve benefit in several ways. Number one, they benefit with training. Number two, they benefit with actually having a certification or a trade that they can take to an employer. But they also benefit by long-term community support with mentors, the opportunity to have at Johnson County Community College, to have a transition specialist who works with people coming out of incarceration. So we are able to work together to bring systems together. You would think it was just as easy as getting those two systems to work together, but that took work to help Johnson County Community College understand how to best serve clients coming out of corrections. So now that that bridge is built, we're able to see clients really succeed and flourish as they leave corrections and enter the workforce. So we really get down to this last question: how can you support? The absolute best way to support is reach out to me. The contact info is in the chat. We need everything from folks who would drop off a meal for strengthening families, which may mean just one night's commitment, to mentors who would just meet together with some of our clients and have healthy conversations and supportive conversations, to employers who would talk to us and help us understand how we can meet the needs of employers, but at the same time, reduce barriers for employment, facilitators and coaches. There's a lot of ways to connect. I encourage you to reach out, and thanks for the opportunity to share. I see several familiar names on the room this morning, so I'm excited to maybe have some follow-up conversations.
Thank you, Lee, so much. Oh my gosh. I mean, well done doing an overview of those programs. And it's hard to list all the ways that folks on this call can support that. I mean, so many ways, right? So mentorship, volunteers, I'm certain, funding, just rallying around, opening your doors to support all of these different paths. It's so important to cast not just a vision, but make that pathway possible. And so thank you for everything you're doing there. Lucy, any additional thoughts to round out what Lee has shared with us before we move on to our next guest?
I just want to thank you, Lee, and I've always been impressed ever since I've known you. You've really sought to have difficult conversations. I think that's really an important piece of all of this, and in engaging our elected officials as well as leaders in community and talking to people at all levels of leadership, I think has been really instrumental in your success along the way. So thank you for all you're doing to serve the community.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, and if you have questions for Lee, please put them in the chat. We will try to circle back to them towards the end, but we'll definitely give them all to him so he can circle back with you after the fact as well. Well, we have our next guest, Miss Ann Pitnick, and I'm excited for you to meet her. Ann, I'll just give you the prompt. We would love for you to introduce yourself, share about what you do, how you're serving the community. From your perspective, what vulnerabilities exist, and how could the community help?
Awesome. Thank you so very much. I appreciate the time being with everyone today. Lee, I don't know if I can do justice with following up with what you've done, but I'll certainly try my best. As she said, my name is Ann Pitnick. I'm the programs coordinator with Johnson County Department of Corrections Juvenile Services, and I oversee our evidence-based programming in our juvenile detention facility, ensuring that youth receive evidence-based programming as part of their time spent with us while incarcerated. I also oversee our juvenile intake and assessment operations. So we provide intake and assessment services and direct care to youth placed in police protective custody. And when I look at some of the gaps that we see in our local community, especially in our judicial district, affordable housing for justice-involved clients is one of our biggest things that we see and barriers to those that we serve. Also placement resources like shelter facilities and protective homes and foster homes, along with filling transportation needs for the youth and families in our community, so they can get to those appointments for mental health care and direct client service through those providers that they participate in. We collaborate quite well with Derek Wilczek with the FBI. He's based in the Overland Park Police Department, and Kelly Young with KBC. Both do an excellent job of responding to our needs regarding human trafficking victims. And we wouldn't have the success we have in screening out those individuals had it not been in collaboration with those two individuals that are vital to the persons that we serve. We are soon to be employing, hopefully, a new screening tool for human trafficking through the state of Kansas to help further identify victims of human trafficking and labor trafficking in Johnson County. And it's fortunate we've only had a handful of cases each year with regard to human trafficking and those suspicions of human trafficking and or labor trafficking. I think we only had one case that actually went for labor trafficking through prosecution. And I think it's with the efforts of Derek and certainly Kelly that has been able to streamline the victims that we see and ensuring that their needs are being met in that regard. Certainly we realize that one victim of human trafficking or labor trafficking is one too many. We also are working with our training team with corrections to integrate a new training curriculum to focus more on trauma-informed care, as a large percentage of our clients come in that have experienced trauma firsthand. We serve our clients and we look at a universal approach that we deem is essential and critical in meeting their needs regarding trauma-informed care. We've adopted the SAMHSA Gaines Center for Behavioral Health and Justice Transformation, their training curriculum with 3 goals in mind, really: increasing an understanding of trauma, create awareness of the impact of trauma and behavior and those ties, and develop trauma-informed responses to those that we serve and that are justice involved. This includes both our adult and juvenile population. Our clients and volunteers, along with staff, will receive this training curriculum, which we're excited about. We provide evidence-based programming that is cognitive in nature and addresses the behavioral needs of our clients, as well as other programs such as Heart Math, Smart Brain, Wise Heart, assessing and evaluating programs, decision points, and the decision-making that goes on with those individuals. A 4-step program designed to aid the client in assessing and evaluating how they make their decisions, a cognitive model with replacement thoughts, epic scores, and motivational interviewing to round out the skills training that we provide for our volunteers and our staff. We also use interactive journaling and a behavioral change model that works and targets cognitive restructuring of the clients that we serve. How do our individuals and families and clients benefit? They learn firsthand how to address their internal responses and how the impact of trauma affects their behavior and blends in with their interpersonal relationships that they have. We strive to change behaviors in our clients with the hope of them learning and growing to improve their thoughts from a given situation or experience they may have, which will lead them hopefully to expressing their feelings and exhibiting those actions while hopefully weighing the making process. We strongly believe that this strengthens the family system, lessons of vulnerabilities in our community. We know that each person that is affected by trauma and how resilient it can become makes all the difference in the world in how they approach the victimology and what they've experienced in their life. They rely on hope and courage to better themselves through trauma-informed care approaches and through the trauma-informed care lens. We ask that the community help and support by contacting either myself, the programs coordinator, or we have Erin Mader, our program volunteer coordinator, in addressing some of the needs of our local community and those that we serve in the justice system.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Wow, that is so much, and that is beautiful work and incredibly important work. Thank you for all you're doing to serve your community. Lucy, additional thoughts from what Marianne just shared?
Yeah, and I'm really appreciating what I'm seeing in the chat, as well as people are making connections. And I do encourage you guys, find these individuals on LinkedIn, as well as take down their email information. But Mary just mentioned Erin Moder, and she does a phenomenal job of keeping current on LinkedIn, how the community is stepping in and being involved in very meaningful ways with these families and celebrating what it is that they're accomplishing together. And already today, just from these first 2 speakers, we're hearing about opportunities that we can provide employment, we can provide transportation, something as simple as providing a meal, and supporting different housing projects in our community, especially those that are focused on affordable housing, providing mentorship, as you have more time. And that can be anything from a season of a quarter of a year to years, in the life of an individual. I love, Mary, everything that you said was just so person-centered and not blaming, very inclusive. I really appreciated I feel challenged from you when you're speaking. We need to make sure that our community is one where people who are even justice involved, they belong in our community. And we want to be that, we want to be that place where they can thrive in our community, living among us, and with their needs being met as we grow in understanding of one another and of those traumas that you were speaking of. We need to be trauma informed as professionals. We also need to be trauma informed as neighbors. And what all of these organizations I see they have in common is that equipping of the community to be able to be responsive in effective ways.
Love all of that. Yeah. So we're going to be following up by email on links to resources you can go to learn more about these programs, access them if you need them, or if you know someone who does, and certainly reach out to see how you can provide support. So bravo, Marianne. Thank you so much for sharing. We will, if you have questions for Marianne, yeah, slow clapping her. If you have questions for Marianne, please put them in the chat. We'll come back to it. But next up, we have Kelly Young joining us. So Kelly, welcome. Please introduce yourself and all the rest. What you do, what your days are filled with, from your perspective, vulnerabilities in Johnson County, and how folks could help all the good work you're doing too.
Thanks, Ashley. Hello, all. My name's Kelly Young. I'm Director of Evidence-Based Initiatives at KVC. And in that role, I have a few programs that fall under me, including our PMTO, which is Parent Management Training, the Oregon model, our PMTO program. We just recently received a grant through Johnson County to provide those services to families of youth who are justice involved. And so we're super excited about that opportunity. I also have been, since 2015, leading our immediate response team. Our immediate response team responds to law enforcement requests or court-ordered human trafficking assessments. So when law enforcement comes into contact with a youth that they believe may be a victim of trafficking, they contact the KBI, and the KBI then contacts our immediate response team to be able to respond and do an assessment. Our immediate response team also responds to court-ordered assessments. Judges can court order an assessment, and then one of our responders will complete that assessment and get the information sent back to the court. Our immediate response team, each foster care contractor across the state has an immediate response team. So that's not something individual to KVC, but KVC being the foster care provider in this community, we're responsible for that in Johnson County. Our immediate response team is made up of 7 responders, in addition to 2 of our missing youth specialists. So a couple of years ago, DCF provided an additional grant to each of the foster care contractors to hire 2 folks. Each contractor started with 2, to hire 2 folks as missing youth specialists. The role of the missing youth specialist was to help locate, recover, and re-engage youth in services who have been on the run. Now, I'm fortunate at KVC in that my 2 missing youth specialists, Denise is one, and she's been with KVC for over 20 years. She's worked in probably every position that there is to work at in KVC, and she has a wealth of systems knowledge. She's also very detail oriented. And then I have Charlie, who is my other missing youth specialist. And Charlie is a survivor of trafficking and openly speaks about that. Charlie does an amazing job of connecting with youth who are on the run and working towards them turning themselves in so that we can get them in a safe placement. And then Charlie does a great job of engaging those youth for ongoing mentorship. Another thing that we have operating at KVC that I am super excited about is our Batterers Intervention Program, Safe With Me. It's the first Batterers Intervention Program that is housed within a child welfare agency primarily serving those families who are involved in child welfare. Now, the thing that's really cool about the Batterers Intervention Program, Safe With Me, is we can take referrals in-house from KVC. We also take referrals externally to KVC, but the person who helps support me with that program, Krista Bundy, she and I have several years of experience in working with domestic violence and human trafficking and sexual assault issues. And we are in that Batterers Intervention Program. We not only serve people who are perpetrating intimate partner violence in their adult relationships, but also parents who are perpetrating child maltreatment, child abuse, and perpetrators of a variety of interpersonal crimes, including human trafficking. So that's really, really exciting. Barriers that we have in Johnson County, in thinking about Johnson County, all of our service area, quite frankly, is we don't have enough foster homes. We have more kids in foster care than we have foster homes in the state. So we need more foster homes in order for kids to be able to stay in a family-like environment. Kids tend to run less frequently when they are placed in a family-like environment versus a group home of some type. And that it's a barrier, but it's also a way that we can reduce that barrier by increasing foster homes and being able to increase foster homes in Johnson County so that our kids from Johnson County can stay within their community and can stay connected to the services that they're engaged in. We know that youth, when they move from one community to another, it disrupts all of the services, and those services have to be reestablished. So kids who are receiving mental health services, when those services get disrupted and have to be reestablished in another community, that certainly is a barrier because it can take some time to get those services in place. Additional barriers and ways that we can address those barriers as a community is in Johnson County. I find it so interesting that we're in the metro, one of the largest counties in the state of Kansas, but yet we don't have targeted services for youth who are victims of trafficking. And to me, that's really disheartening. In order for a youth to receive very targeted services, they have to move to another community. Those services, there is a secure facility in Wichita, and there is a step down from that Garver House that is in, I believe that's in Salina. But both of those communities are 2+ hours from Johnson County. So ideally, we as a community can rally and create an array of services that we can serve our kids in Johnson County so we can keep them as part of their community, because we know that that will contribute to their resiliency. Other opportunities and barriers and opportunities is we have a number of youth who are 16, 17 years old, or even 18, and their case plan goal is independent living. Well, you might imagine if you've been in a foster home, or if you've been in a group home and maybe there hasn't been stability in placement, learning day-to-day independent living skills can be a challenge when those are the circumstances. So mentors within our community that can pair with youth who have an independent living case plan goal to help them kind of navigate the world around them. Who do you call when your electricity goes out? How can you find out if your electricity is on an outage grid? Kind of some of those basics that our youth don't really have the opportunity a lot of times to really get to know ahead of time. And they're often trying to figure those things out in the midst of it. We also know that youth who age out of foster care are at an increased risk of human trafficking in order to survive and to try to get their day-to-day needs met. So if our community can come together and embrace those youth in a big warm hug and say, we're here for you, we're here to support you, and that there are avenues and resources available in our community that you can get your basic needs met, that would be amazing. And I know there are a number of community services who are out there who do attempt to assist people in getting their basic needs met, but our kids aren't always aware of those services. So that's what we can do on our end at KVC, is continue to educate kids about the services that are available in the community. And then I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, so I'll mention it again, but we did just recently receive a grant through Johnson County to serve families of youth who are justice involved, providing our parenting, our PMTO intervention, and PTC, which is the group delivery of PMTO. So that is a wide array of things that we have going on at KVC, things that we are attempting to do to address barriers, and how the community can come in and walk alongside us in addressing those barriers.
Bravo, Kelly, bravo. That is amazing. Kudos to you and your entire team. Thank you for everything you're doing. And obviously you've kind of laid out, there are so many needs, right? Even in Johnson County, and so many ways for community members to meet those needs, whether it's very simple step or even taking in and becoming foster families. So love the whole spectrum there. Lucy, what are your thoughts from all that Marianne has shared with us today?
Now, one of the things I do want to mention, Kelly brought up youth being displaced to be able to access services that are specific to their needs, especially with the exploitation of being trafficked. And that is something that we have seen as we've conducted searches, point-in-time searches for missing persons. We've seen that kids end up being brought to a group home because of their mental illness, and because of they may have a propensity to run, and so they end up being placed in a group home that's out of town, brought to Kansas City, Missouri, and then they end up who knows how to hang around those places and build relationships and tell those kids, we've got your back. We won't turn you in. We got a place for you. Those are those who would exploit them. And it's always gotten under my skin. If a thug can get a hold of our kids and groom them and lure them in, then where are we to be standing, to be the ones that they meet when they come into our community? They're coming to our community because they need help. And I hear law enforcement articulating what Kelly mentioned all the time. We see these youth, we see these vulnerable adults, we see people that are struggling with mental illness, with addiction, with other vulnerabilities, or maybe it's even they're a foreign national. They don't even know our laws here and the protections here. And so they're here, they're now there's a crime being committed, and they have no safety net. We have women coming into our program with nothing but the clothes on their back, and you ask them for an emergency contact and they have none. And this is kind of where Ashley's work with Engage Together comes in, to equip our whole of community to come together and come around and be that safety net. Because I'm so dissatisfied, at my core, with the idea that we would not have those services available here, and we would kind of wash our hands and just send them over there where those services have been developed. And we all know, if you go down to our shelters in Kansas City, Missouri, you go down to our food pantries, who's standing right outside of them? Drug dealers, pimps, right? That's who's there. And that's where we need to be involved in all of those services and those solutions as well. And it just continues to challenge me. I live in Johnson County. I work in Wyandotte County. I live in Johnson County, and challenges me. We need to continue to not be afraid of building services right here in our community and taking responsibility for that response to people in need. That does not hurt our community. It makes it safer. It makes it stronger and more resilient when we're able to do that.
Well, the pastor's kid in me wants to say amen to all of that. So yes, I could not agree more. And And so if you are on this call today and you actually have resources that you're trying to provide the community, I really encourage you, if you don't know if KVC and others are aware of what you're able to offer, get in touch and let them know. Be proactive about that. And yes, we're going to be working for months and months ahead to try to strengthen all of these collaborations and all of this. But just go ahead and let folks know, hey, you've raised your hand, you have something to offer. So let's move that now to our final speaker, and then we'll do Q&A. But Detective Shannon Leeper has joined us today to share from her perspective all that she does, what she's seeing in Johnson County, how you can be helpful to all of that great work. So welcome, Shannon.
Thank you. It's great to be here talking with you all today. I'm actually here to also help represent Assistant District Attorney Megan Awesons. She's unable to be with us here today. So I will be talking with you all a little bit about the Family Justice Center initiative that we have going, which she kind of kicked that whole operation off. But just to tell you a little bit about who I am a 23-year veteran here at the Lenexa Police Department. Went to our investigations division in 2005. So I've done the investigative work for about 17 years. In 2008, I was allowed to establish and develop our special victims unit here at Lenexa PD, which began as a unit of one, and we've now grown. So there are now 3 of us that handle that caseload. And so special victims for us here at Lenexa would include domestic violence, child abuse, sexual assault, human trafficking, and stalking. And, we stay very, very busy within our own agency here in Johnson County with that particular caseload. And so just to give you a perspective on some of the numbers here in our county, in our community, I partner very closely with MOXA, our Rape Crisis Center, Safe Home, our domestic violence shelter, and Sunflower House, which is our child advocacy center here that serves families in both Johnson and Wyandotte County. So with regards to what we know about child sexual abuse, 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday. Here locally at Sunflower House, the numbers I have that are most recent would be from 2019. And in that year alone, the forensic interviewers at Sunflower House interviewed over 500 children in just that one particular year. So that number is staggering when you think about all of those children here in Johnson and Wyandotte County experiencing child abuse, physical abuse, sexual assault, or also being witnesses to domestic violence. At Sunflower House, they've also provided over 2,000 hours of therapy services just in that 1 year alone. So you can go to that one facility and you can have the forensic interview piece, and then you can get connected to therapy services there through PACEs. So families can tap into that service, which is of no cost to them, which is huge. And that helps keep those families engaged in the process. When you're talking about sexual violence, I think the last numbers I have are from 2017 here in the state of Kansas. And in terms of reporting, we were seeing about an average of 1 sexual assault every 7 hours in our state alone. So again, those are known reports. Sexual violence is hugely underreported, and but those numbers, again, should cause you to pause that we have so much sexual violence and child abuse in our own communities. And then when you look at domestic violence, 2018, Johnson County filed close to 280 felony level domestic violence cases. That's just a small fraction of the volume of cases that are actually coming into that office from all of the various cities here in Johnson County. I think there are about, gosh, I don't have a number to give you for that, but essentially, that's a high volume in terms of cases coming in. And then unfortunately, we see that only about not even half of those, I think, proceed all the way through to charging and convictions. And a lot of it has to do with not having victims available for the whole entire process, unfortunately, to hold offenders accountable. So what does that mean? It means that we have a very unnecessarily complicated and scattered system for victims and families to navigate when they find themselves going through the criminal justice system with regards to any of those types of interpersonal violent crimes. And so because it is so complicated, we know that we need to create a better option to serve these families. And so, you know, what it looks like now is if someone calls 911, for instance, they have to initially deal with us, the police. We take reports. We're going to have to maybe send folks for medical exams and evaluations. We're going to want to do follow-up, see them again to take photos of injuries, refer families for forensic interviews, connect them to the Department of Children and Family for their resources and services. We're going to loop in mental health providers. They might need to apply for a protection from abuse order for themselves or for their children. That alone can be a half a day process, just trying to get the order signed and granted by a judge. But that doesn't stop there, because once you receive a temporary order of protection, you've got to come back. And you've probably got to come back a few times before you can actually have your case heard and have an actual order put in place that might offer another little bit of protection for about a year. So you can see that there are a lot of things that we expect victims and families to do while navigating a very complex situation with a lot of people in their ear, trying to offer services or to actually keep them engaged in a process. So that takes us to that Family Justice Center initiative, which is the real reason I want to talk with you today and explain that this is a fantastic concept that we would like to bring here to Johnson County, Kansas. I'm going to read a definition to you just so that this makes it clear about exactly what a Family Justice Center is. So it would be a multi-agency, multidisciplinary service center where public and private agencies assign staff members on a full-time or part-time basis in order to provide services to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, elder abuse, dependent adult abuse, human trafficking, and we house it in one location. So the purpose is in order to reduce the number of times a victim must tell their story, so being trauma informed, reducing the number of places victims must go for help and resources, and increasing access to services and support for victims and their children. So what does that mean when you take that big definition and apply it to something here in our community? It's a one-stop shop. So the goal would be to have one building, one designated location where we house all of these professionals invested in this work under one roof. That would include law enforcement, so detectives that investigate these crimes, prosecutors that handle that criminal piece of it, your witness personnel, domestic violence staff, community-based rape crisis, domestic violence, human trafficking advocates, social service staff members, DCF, civil legal service providers, medical personnel, mental health. It's a one-stop shop. So ideally, a family could come through those doors and on various levels of the building, say, or different wings of this one complex, they can do all of these things at one time, instead of having to first come and see me, then maybe go to a hospital for an exam, take their children to another location for a forensic interview, follow up with the Department of Children and Families, and having to travel all over the place on different dates and different times to be able to access all the services available to them. A lot of communities have shown that having a family justice center there has really made a huge impact. It keeps families engaged in the process. And when you have ongoing cooperation with victim families, that's going to lead to offender accountability, and it's going to reduce recidivism in our communities. That's the ultimate goal. We hate to keep seeing the same folks coming through our door, repeatedly being victimized because there are so many barriers for them to access all the services available to help them break those cycles of violence. Let me see if I can get you some numbers here that will help illustrate the success of some of these projects in other communities. So Tulsa, for example, they saw a recidivism rate from 45% down to just 6%. That's a huge number. New York City saw a decrease in family-related crimes by 21%. San Diego does fantastic work. Intimate partner homicide dropped by 90% over a 15-year time frame after they opened their family justice center. That's incredible. That's a huge number. And I'll give you one more. So let's see here what we've got. Alameda County, California, intimate partner homicide dropped by 82%. So lots and lots of lives being saved in that community. Just having access to all of those services and resources under one roof, which is the goal. So what we've done here in Johnson County is we have a work group that was put together, and 2020 kind of it's caused some problems and hiccups in us moving that forward right now. But what do we need? So how can we all help with this process? In order to kick this off and to actually get something moving on the ground, we're looking at needing $70,000, and that's to have a study come in from the Family Justice Center Alliance. They come in and they help communities evaluate the need for a family justice center and help with the strategic planning to get that up and going. So that's $70,000. Beyond that, it costs about $25 million to build and operate. The good news is we can get a lot of funding like that through grants and some really fantastic resources. But we also are reaching out to community partners and asking for people to step up and be part of this initiative, because it's going to be so helpful and beneficial to our entire community. I will put a link in the chat to a website you can go to just to give you a little bit of information about the Johnson County Family Justice Center initiative. Again, 2020 hasn't been so kind in us really pushing that forward, but we certainly hope to, and I expect good things to come from that. This has been strongly supported and backed by Steve Howe, our district attorney, and again, Megan Ossens with our district attorney's office really is the one that's collaborating and helping bring all of us together to get this process moving forward. So, we're going to be reaching out and having some other work groups established where we would love community partners to join in and take a look at what we anticipate and help us really build and shape that for our community here in Johnson County. A county our size, there's no reason why we can't have better resources for families and try to eliminate all of that complicated, unnecessary conflict and stress and trauma, just trying to navigate the criminal justice system.
Oh, thank you so much. Shannon, I don't know if I had my video on when I just jumped out of my chair or not, forgive me. There was a bee, but we so appreciate that. And as an attorney, just as someone who's worked in this space, for a very long time, couple decades now, I cannot highlight to those listening in how important these kinds of centers are. That ease of accessing resources you need in that very moment, that ease of navigating those complex systems and all the people that will come in and out of your life, during this critical time. It really is. Without it, it creates barriers to justice for the victim, justice for the perpetrators, and so of these crimes. So really excited to see that take off, and can't wait, to see the success of it. So if you're listening in and you think you can help with this piece of the puzzle, help find funding, help find partners, maybe even you are already providing a service that you want to make sure that this particular justice center knows about, so that you can provide support to the people they'll be serving soon, just flood Shannon's, inbox or whoever she sends, she sends as the primary contact for this. Lucy, I would love your thoughts on this too, to round out your thoughts on this particular initiative and all that Shannon shared.
Yes, and I've been excited about that clinic to open, for quite some time. As she said, they've worked on it for years. And Judy Rodman with Sunflower House is actually a participant today. And there's so many organizations that are kind of standing in the wings, waiting for this to come to fruition. And if you have never heard of this before, like Ashley said, and like Shannon said, and want to hear more, there is room for more people to be at that table in shaping out the timing of when that will open and everything involved there. I think the main thing that excites me today is just the promise that we are going to continue to work together to make our community as responsive as it can be, to come alongside all the citizens in our community, and with a conviction that that people that are harmed here can also be helped here. I think that's really critically important. One of the things that we constantly bump into at Veronica's Voice is that same process that was alluded to earlier, that people who are experiencing a crime committed against them, trying to find services, law enforcement trying to connect people to services, court systems trying to connect people to services. It just kind of goes on and on and on. And I know sometimes we can get fatigued by, well, this problem's so big. What is it that I can do from where I'm at? And I hope that today, every single person on here has seen ways that we can partner together that are completely doable, that yes, may get you out of your comfort zone, but not to the point that it's something that's unmanageable. So I appreciate each person that shared today, the time that you took out of your busy schedule to be here, and also appreciate all of the participants that are here today. And I hope we have a few minutes left for questions. I've been trying to look here. Jess is wanting to ask a quick question. And then there's also a question of, is there an update on advocacy for vacatur on human trafficking victims in the state of Kansas? And Elizabeth, at this moment, no. The update is we will take another run this year. That's the update. But Jess wanted to give you an opportunity to ask your question, and anybody else who has questions.
Okay, hi, hello, I'm Jess Phillips, and I don't know any of you. I just actually saw this invitation on Reuseful and popped in on a whim. I am wholeheartedly invested in this. I have reached out to as many of you as I could on LinkedIn during this call. First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of you for everything that you're doing. I care about this very, very much. I currently have two companies. One is Hypercubed, a technology company here in Kansas City, and we are trying to collect data on this. I would be happy to speak with each and every one of you. If I did not send you an invite, please find me so that I can talk to you about what we are doing and to see how I can collaborate with you to help what you're doing. The other thing I'm about to launch is alliancenow.org. That is a nonprofit. It is about child protection and community support. I currently am helping a lot of nonprofits in the area. One is Sunflower House. I have a patent out now, right now, a provisional patent on ClickLink, which is a GPS tracking device for children. This is something that I've been working on very hard and adamantly am trying to get off the ground. It is currently being manufactured. It's the size of a button. This is not a push for me to try to sell something to you. This is something that I'm hoping I can share to help us stop child trafficking. My husband and I have a startup here in the community, Hypercubed, and we are helping other IoT devices such as this. There are a lot of people that I'd like to connect We are also working on an app for the Amber Alert system with one of the congressmen here in the community. This information and these contacts, I know that we could share, and I'd be happy to do so. I just wanted to step forward and say, I myself was a psychotherapist for years and worked within these systems that you're speaking of. A lot of this kind of crossover information, it just, my heart, every time each of you spoke today, I'm like, oh my gosh, this case, this child, these situations. At night, it was so hard to shelve them. And every time that I think of the individuals that I worked with, I can see it and I can hear it in your voice, how passionate you all are. And I know that we all have that same kind of umph and dream to make this community a safer place. And so I put my information in here today, and it is my hope that I can have a one-on-one with each of you, and maybe we can have some collaborative things moving forward. I think for the funding of this Family Justice Center, I do have a contact, and I did email you on LinkedIn, Shannon, because I do think that we could get this off the ground, maybe us and some investors, but I do want this to be an ongoing effort. So I will do my part, and I will definitely get some emails out today, but I just wanted to step in and say thank you guys all for everything you're doing and for allowing us to be a part of it. I invited my whole team today, so thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Jess. And we want to be mindful of time, so we're about to stop recording, but you can hang on and continue to talk with our panelists, our guests, and each other in just a